Alrighty, guys, this is the second edition of the Hurry Up. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm Adam, and I'm here with my friend Anthony.
What's up?
And we're going to get into a lot of topics we've got this week. A lot's happened over the past week, and we've got a real good show coming up for y'all.
All right, so a couple things to talk about today, just to run over. We're going to be talking about the game, of course. We're going to be talking about some stuff from some other teams. We're going to be talking about, of course, looking forward to the Patriots game, real big game. And then we're going to wrap it up with some other Houston sports.
All right, so I think first off would be talk about the game a little bit.
Yeah, all right, so, let's not beat around the bush here. This was Clowney's game, right?
Definitely a coming out game for him. It was kind of like the J.J. Watt game in 2011 against the Bengals.
It was definitely a masterpiece written by Clowney for sure, and he had a lot of ensemble pieces from the rest of the Texans because while we talk about this, it's going to be a lot of Clowney in this game for sure because that's who was mainly this was focused on, was doing a lot of the work. But really, it's a lot of this Texas defense, like we kind of said in our previous show that if you're going to win this, it was going to be a lot of Texans defense, which definitely it was.
Yeah, I mean, really, this was a great game for a lot of people. Whitney Merciless had a great game. You could look at Cush, he's a real good defensive anchor. McKinney had a real good one. We were real disruptive on Connor Cook. He didn't look very confident at all from the get-go. I was pretty shocked that they didn't maybe turn to Matt McGloin at halftime.
Well, I think that I think the report said that old Blackjack Del Rio, as he's so called, had got a lot of his coaches really talked him out of putting him in there as well. So they kind of stuck with Connor Cook.
Yeah, I guess they thought that maybe there was just too much stacked up against them. Uh,
Yeah, and if you look at the game too, Connor Cook really they were disrupting him in the pocket, which is really good. It's a really good sign considering what we need to do in this upcoming game, which we'll talk about later. But just getting there and disrupting him and getting in his face, the schemes was really good actually this time around, and I felt that Romeo Cornell really disguised a lot of these things from Connor Cook. That he didn't know what was going on, who was rushing, who was doing what, which is really good on Romeo's part, and what you need to do against a rookie quarterback who had no idea what was going on. And it was one of those things I also think that led into their supposed comeback in the end where Connor Cook actually went down and got a touchdown is that Romeo Cornell kind of stopped doing that. He played a little more lackadaisical with the defense. He didn't try to disguise as much, and Connor Cook got a little comfortable in the pocket and started really kind of getting those balls out, which I think is one of the reasons. But which I think with talking about this New England game, we really got to kind of step it up and keep going at that full throttle.
yeah, I mean, me and you both had agreed that it seemed like in the second half, particularly, the Texans as a whole had kind of laid off the gas a little bit and let them not gain too much momentum necessarily, because Latavius Murray was pretty much a non-factor again, just like the Mexico City game.
Well, they really stuffed him a lot, and a lot of that goes to those defensive ends with Merciless and Clowney really getting after that pass or getting after that rush for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely did not look stable. He had a good 45 pass attempts and only completed 14 of them. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, this is you can't expect too much from him. This poor rookie. I mean, starting a playoff game, his first career start. I mean, it's a learning lesson for sure for him.
Yeah, but it's a good. And we got real lucky with some of the injuries, especially along that line, which let Clowney and others really get after him. But it's a real good warm up for what's coming next. For sure. And I keep teasing this. This is good show business. Keep teasing what's coming, but it's a real good warm up for what's gonna happen. I mean, the defense really did really well. They shut them out 0 for 10 third downs there for quite a while, which really helped our offense, do what they did this
It
game.
was a great momentum builder for sure going into a tough task ahead, which we're going to get into a little bit later. But I agree, this is a great game, build-up game overall. It's a shame that it's our last home game, unless things work out. Unless things work out. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. But I think we should maybe talk a little bit more about offensive side of the ball. I think Brock had a very good game, first half in particular. Had 146 yards at the half, completed the rest of the game with about 25 more yards. Second half, like I said, is pretty quiet. from the team as a whole, but Brock particularly so was a lot more conservative.
Mm-hmm.
Conservative, I noticed.
Well, he didn't want to turn over the ball. I mean, you do. You don't. I mean, with the lead they had, you don't want to turn over the ball and give the Raiders opportunities. And this game really did frustrate me. And I think I've told you this before. Before it really does frustrate me because you see all these really good qualities that Brock Osweiler has at times, and why we paid the money we did to him for the amount of years that we did. He threw some pretty good passes that game. That one bomb down to DeAndre
It was a good tight
for that
spiral. Yeah,
touchdown. It was a
absolutely.
good tight spiral to DeAndre, and it really is frustrating to see him do that well, and then go back in the rest of the season and see what he's done. It's so frustrating, and I'm sure it's even more frustrating for the coaches too. I mean, as fans, I'm sure it's frustrating for the coaches to see that kind of stuff.
No doubt about it. I mean, they're in the building a good 13 hours a day. I'm sure spending definitely more of their life in the building than they are at their own home. Yeah, we're we're very frustrated and annoyed and concerned with his problems watching it from 60 minutes of game time. Imagine what they're going through in the quarterback meetings and the practice facilities and practices itself.
And I don't think he's going to turn it around this season. I honestly don't. But at least this kind of gives a little bit, I don't want to say hope, but a spark of something in him that he does have this kind of quality that we see that we can hopefully capitalize on. And I also think, and his performance did a lot what I said in the prediction too, is that he throws, and if you look at it, he did throw a lot of out routes, a lot of quick passes to his tight ends, not a lot to the wideouts. But he did have those couple bombs, which is really what Oakland's real weak point was, is real big bombs down the side.
He's a big tight end quarterback. He always hits his man Fedorowicz and Griffin.
Well, he let Fedorowicz have such a good season. I mean, if you go back and look at Fedorowicz, he actually had a pretty good season because he was targeted
Oh
so
yeah.
much.
I mean, you look at and then he whenever he does remember about Hopkins, he tries forcing him the ball, and that's what he didn't do last game, which was a good thing to see from him.
It shows progress, at least, hopefully, that he's
Going in the right
kind of
way.
trying to learn this defense. I mean, there were still a few things, here and there. He got some protection from his line. He scrambled. He scrambled for that touchdown. He's got some legs on him, but
I don't know about you, but there was a play where the pocket completely collapsed, and we ended up having to punt that drive. It was the third down play. He needed a good 8 yards. Yeah, he ended up getting like 5 yards needed. I was just impressed that he even got a gain out of it. I was so surprised. It was
uh, he's got those long legs, man. He can run. He can run for sure.
Yeah, he's pretty elusive in that play. It was kind of neat to see. I'd like to see that more often. Obviously, not expecting an Aaron Rodgers kind of scrambler, but something a little above average would be nice to have.
Yeah, to really kind of help him out for
Yeah,
sure.
and before we break away from the game, I just want to kind of rub it in, but I got the prediction right. I called the W.
No, all right. Yeah, you got the W. You
No,
didn't
well,
exactly
no.
get the prediction
Predictions are
right.
so difficult.
I was playing. Look. I was playing devil's advocate. All right. I hope they'd win, but you chose one way. I chose the other. All right. That's how it happens. I think we're gonna be pretty concise about this next one, though.
Probably.
We're gonna be pretty concise with this.
I think that's about it for the game. I think. Do you have anything else you wanted to touch on about the Raider game that just happened over the past weekend?
I I want them to tackle better.
That is true. There was
Is
a
the one
lot of
thing I
blown
think I could pull
tackles.
away.
Yeah, that is true.
It's a lot of from both sides. And actually, you know what? Now thinking about it, we didn't even talk about the running backs. Not even thinking about this. Same thing. It always kind of happens. Lamar had a pretty good game for the most part. He got the kind of rushes we need. He swapped in and out with Alfred Blue. Alfred Blue. Does what Blue normally does. Not much. Kind of run to the pile. I think Lamar had a pretty good game though. Anything about Lamar?
Not too much. I mean, I would have liked to have seen him break away a few more times. I'm just kind of going off of memory. I believe he had around 25 carries, got about 75-ish yards. I'd like to see him a little closer to 100.
Yeah, but his legs kept moving the whole time. Especially there was that one play where he was running into the pile. He kept his leg moving, and he kind of curled off the side and got, what was it, 20 yards, I want to say, 20, 30 yards off that breakaway from the side.
Yeah, I remember what you're talking about.
So, there was some good, there was some bad. It's Texans football. There's always going to be some bads,
One more
But
thing
it just,
I just wanted to touch on. I don't know about you, but did you see the punter for the Raiders? Is King? I
yeah.
swear he is the funniest punter to watch. I know that's probably the weirdest thing to say, but he gets so excited after every single punt.
Hey, the dude's happy, all right? He's happy because our return man can't do anything talking about it. I totally forgot to talk about Irvin. The guy, we need to find a new
No, for
punt
sure. Did you
returner,
see
right?
the two times that his face mask? Two times, and we just got lucky that our guy happened to be right nearby to get it.
Yeah. We got to find somebody else or really teach
Who's
that
a
guy. I don't
candidate
know
you would
what's
like?
going on
I
with
don't
him.
think there's teaching him. Not this year. He's a rookie. I think maybe next year he might, but I think we gotta bail on Irvin for this year.
We Fuller. I like Fuller. Dude's real
I
fast.
like
You
Fuller
know.
a lot. It's just he's kind of got butterfingers though. That's my only problem. I
Yeah, but I think on a punt though he'll be fine enough to catch it and run it back. I mean, the dude's real fast. I mean, you can see the thing. You can see the same thing. Not as much Butterfingers, but you can see the same thing in the Raiders punt returner. Man, that guy's
he
fast.
is, yeah,
Richard.
yeah.
I mean, that dude was super fast. He was blown by
I think
everybody.
I'd rather see a guy like a Lamar Miller or an Akeem Hunt, someone who's got a little more stable hands.
Then I'd give Akeem Hunt. Then I wouldn't give
I
Miller the ball
understand
just
for
because I wouldn't
injury.
want to take of him
Yeah,
getting hurt. Yeah.
I'd give it to Akeem Hunt. He's a good utility player, good utility back.
Mm-hmm. He'll be on the team for a
Yeah,
while, I
I
think.
like him. He's not too financially insane to keep around. He's signed off our practice squad last year, so I like him. He was a good pickup from the Giants.
People are gonna get paid next
For
year,
sure.
for sure.
Look at Quentin Demps. Had a great season. And that's something else we didn't even mention. He won AFC Player of the Month, Defensive Player of the Month for the month of December.
He did, and he deserved it. He had a
Four
great
picks in
December
a
year,
game, or 4 picks in a row. Not in a game.
and yeah,
That would
in
be
consecutive
insane.
games. Yeah, I mean the dude had a really good season.
Yeah,
Really good
that was
season.
great. So I think that's about all we were going to mention about the Raider game. I think maybe we should transition to another topic that I had come across, and I wanted to mention this one in particular because last week we had talked about possibility of changes within the organization of with it being Rick Smith or coaches in general. And I had briefly touched on maybe Mike Vrabel is a guy I'd like to see move up within the organization. I last week said that I didn't think he was quite ready to be head coaching material, but another NFL team thinks otherwise, at least enough to give him an interview.
You were
I
wrong. You were wrong. Call it out. You were
Hey,
wrong.
you said he wasn't head coaching material at all. I knew he would be
Hey, I didn't
eventually,
think he
but
was
I didn't
there.
think it'd be this soon. I was thinking more
Well,
DC.
the team that interviewed him, right, or is going to interview him,
Yeah,
it's the
it's the
Rams.
Rams.
So I mean,
Hey,
they're pretty desperate.
actually,
I
the Rams
understand.
is a gig I would much rather want if I'm Mike Vrabel over the 49er gig he was offered last year.
Yeah. Well,
Nicer
anything's
city,
yeah.
we've got a little bit more potential. I I just don't think this is quite the job that if I'm Mike Vrabel I want to take on. He's a defensive-minded coach to begin with. The Rams' defense isn't necessarily their problems. Their problems is their offense. So
Mm-hmm.
if he can bring someone else in there, a good offensive coordinator, someone to maybe help him out, I mean, sure. I mean, I'm not saying he can't flip the team. I like Mike Vrabel a lot. I hope he does do good things with someone else because I just don't think the room for growth is that big with our team.
And that's if he gets a job too, right? I mean, the Rams are also interviewing several other people. And not to say that he's got the job
No,
locked up for
no,
sure,
and,
anyways.
and he and that's not going to happen until after the Texan Patriots game. So it's possible
Yeah,
that yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot of candidates that are going to go there, but they're going to look in at all their
The Rams,
options.
the Rams is a very popular gig.
I mean, like I said,
Probably right after the Broncos.
yeah, and I was even reading too that Kyle Shanahan had a pretty good interview with them, so it'll be interesting to see if Kyle Shanahan ends up landing that gig. Uh, and also, nextly, I thought another good thing to talk about would be O'Brien's future in Houston. I know we had kind of touched on this a little bit last week, but I read another article that was saying that he had wished that he had a little bit more roster control over the Texans. What do you think about that?
I mean, I would think that he had a lot of roster control right now, right? I mean, he's got to be making a good portion of those decisions, right? I would
I, I,
think.
I, I'm
Did the
thinking the
article
other
say
way
anything
around.
else?
No, I'm thinking Rick Smith has the bulk of the control, and I think Rick Smith is a little bit of a control freak and kind of doesn't let Bill O'Brien run free. I
Hmm.
think.
I would think
You
that
go
he.
ahead.
You know. No, I was just saying. I think that he would have a lot more control, at least deciding who's in, who's out, kind of thing. I mean, I think he made the call that uh, Savage was going in and was going to start,
Well,
right? I
no,
mean,
I think he's talking more about he wants acquisitional roles. He wants
oh,
more.
you mean like picking
Yeah,
up
I think
people
he's kind of looking to
and
have
drafting?
like a Bill Belichick kind of a team. Obviously, he can't just up and fire Rick Smith, but I think he's kind of wants that kind of control. Because Bill Belichick is the GM and coach of the Patriots. So
That would be
I think
interesting
that's kind of his
for
pedigree. He's
sure.
kind of got that Bill Belichick mindset. I think that's kind of what he's after ultimately, is he just wants entire control of a team and their moves. Yeah, for sure, all the moves within a team, who starts and who doesn't, that's all his call. Rick Smith isn't. That's Rick Smith's not above him on that.
No, but I mean, what team would really give him that kind of control? You think? I can't think of many teams that would actually give him that amount of control.
You got to take a shot sometime. I mean, Bill Belichick didn't just come out and win 4 Super Bowl rings and then take the Patriot gig. I mean, everyone gets an opportunity somewhere, so it's bound to happen if someone has the
Well, if
confidence.
If you're Belichick, you get two opportunities and turn one down and go to another team. Say,
Very true.
but is Bill O'Brien going to hand in his resignation on a napkin? I don't know.
I hope not.
No, especially not this late in the season or at all, really. And I also read another article that's saying that Bill O'Brien, he's staying here. He likes it here. He said in that article, he's got 2 more years on his contract, and he's gonna fulfill it just like Sean Payton. He's gonna fulfill those years, and I hopefully he does because I really like Bill O'Brien. I like what he's done. We're at the point now where we're at before we've got to the divisional round. So it's almost a success if we can get to the conference, finals. It's a step up. But right now, I still think he's done a pretty good job for what we have.
I think next year's his year though. Like that's kind of his tryout year next year, in my opinion, because no coach really goes working on their final year of their contract. You're either getting an extension or you're in hot water pretty much. I don't think that he's gonna work into his final season. I think after next year we're gonna end up hearing if he's sticking around for the long haul for another extension or if he's gonna be moving on elsewhere.
Well, I mean, apparently he's not even in hot water. I mean, that article that we said last episode, apparently it wasn't even real. Apparently his job was never in question. Apparently it was always going to stick, and that was some kind of rumor that was going around, or I don't know how that got
Hot
started.
water might not be the best term to use. I'm thinking more of if an opportunity presents itself for Bill O'Brien and he gets that control of a team that he's after, and it's a team that might be up and coming on the rise, and he maybe likes the roster that's already in place. I can't see Bill O'Brien turning that down.
Yeah,
Nor
I
could I blame
guess.
him, to be honest. That'd be awesome to have that
Well,
kind of a role.
it's a dream, basically, right? You're straddling that line between GM and
Yeah.
coach, and
And that just goes to
it's a
show you
dream.
the
Yeah.
kind of appreciation and the kind of trust that the owner would have instilled in you, giving you that kind of responsibility. I mean, of course, it's not that hard for certain people. Like, I highly doubt it took that much twisting of the arm for Robert Kraft to give that kind of control and extensions to Bill Belichick to continue doing it. I mean, look at his resume.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. So now going back to what I said earlier about apparently his job not being in hot water, how much of a how real of a claim do you think that is that he wasn't in any kind of hot water going into this game? Do you buy into that?
I bought into it to an extent. I don't I could definitely see some tension with Rick Smith and Bill O'Brien. I don't know if you remember last season whenever Ryan Mallett had missed the flight or whatever, he was all kind of pouting because he didn't get the starting gig, lost out to Hoyer, and
Mm-hmm.
it was whenever we were going to the Dolphins game before we lost and Lamar Miller rushed all over us. Bill O'Brien, I had read if it was up to him, he wanted to cut him right then and there. But Rick Smith has kind of flexed his power and said, no, we need to keep him on the roster because we don't have a capable backup, which is the smart move, really. I mean, we can't just expect one guy to go in there because with that logic, Shane Leckler last year would have been our backup quarterback for a game. And that's not the kind of insurance you want. So just kind of reading something like that made me think that they might not be closely knitted.
Yeah, but what I hear is Shane Leckler, that dude has an arm apparently.
Sometimes with the play we get at the helm makes me wonder if we should we should try some trick plays and see what he's got.
Hey, you were counting. You were texting me there in that game like, I want to see a trick play. I want to see a
I
trick
wanted
play.
to. I wanted to see what the Leckman's got up his sleeve. I want to see it.
Leckman.
Leckman.
That's a nice nickname.
Leckman for the
That's a
win.
nice nickname. Uh, Now going to another topic that I'm going to bring up that I'm surprising Adam with right now. Do you think during this draft and talking about control, do you think Bill O'Brien goes after a quarterback?
Ooh, that's a great question. Do you see, just my issue is that from what I understand, and I'm not a big college football follower, I just really don't get too deep into it. There's not a big, deep quarterback pool coming into this
Mm,
draft, from my understanding.
not really, but do you trade up just because? Because you have a pick right now that's undetermined, no idea where it's landing. Do you try to trade up to
Well,
get
you
to
got to
there?
think we made the playoffs. We're one of the eighth teams left remaining as it stands right now. So that means we're going to get at least the 24th pick or higher. Basic mathematical terms. I just
Well, do you trade with somebody? Do you trade somebody to get more picks? What I'm saying, do you trade more? Do you trade some of your more picks to trade up to maybe get somebody that you may think you can develop into
I don't
somebody?
think there's a,
That
a
would
home
start.
run hitting quarterback in the draft for you to do that for, though.
Well, no, but you could get say a second or third round pick, or maybe in like a late. I don't
Yeah.
know. You try?
I
I don't
mean,
know. I think you got to do something.
we were aggressive last year in free agency, and it to this point hasn't worked out exactly how we hoped. What's your take on it? I think if we're aggressive too consistently, it might come back to bite us.
I think that we draft somebody we have enough confidence in to replace who we have on the bench. I mean, our quarterback room is not fan, and most people isn't. To be honest, a lot of people aren't. But we really do not have a really deep. We have Tom Savage, who I'm not really 100% sold on to begin with. You have Brandon Whedon. You have the Cowboys reject on the team, which he served us well for the game that he started, but still, he's definitely not a replacement at all. You have nobody here to replace anybody. Tom Savage is maybe the guy, but I don't believe that. I mean, who are you going to
I
replace
and
Brock
I agree
Osweiler
with
with if
that.
he
I don't
decides to
believe
leave?
any of our three guys are franchise leader. I think out of the three guys, I definitely would have Tom Savage as my backup quarterback. I think he's a capable backup.
I think as a
Yeah.
backup, yeah, but I
So
don't think he's a long-term
no.
solution is what I'm
So
saying. I think you
to
keep him
say
as number two,
scrapping
but
all
who?
three of them per se, I don't think is something I would do. I would honestly even consider
No,
keeping Whedon as my backup.
but who did you get as a three though? I don't think I don't think Brandon Whedon's a three. I think who do you get in that third spot that's going to train up to eventually take the helm or become somebody. You got to put somebody in that three, just like everybody else is doing with other teams. Who is that guy you're going to trade up? And I don't think we have anybody like that.
Yeah, that's true. I don't. Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure.
And it's one of those things
But
that
not necessarily train up because there's plenty of teams that the backup is much older. I mean, you look at the Jags; they have Chad Henne, or not even older than the starter, just older in general, to where you couldn't build around them.
well, no, I meant like in the
Yeah.
draft.
Um.
Well, it's one of those things. I think it's a 50-50 on going to the playoffs, right? Yes, it's great. We got into the playoffs. It's awesome. I don't think we're going to go that far in, but cool, we got there. That's exciting. And then the trade-off is that, oh, well, now we have a kind of high round pick that, what do we do with that?
Then
we
that's
could.
what I've said before: is we're good enough to be relevant, but we're not good enough to be taken serious, and we're not bad enough to be made fun of as much as the Browns do. We're kind of in that crappy middle where we're not good enough to get big wins, but we're not bad enough to get really good draft picks. It's just
It's
consistent.
a weird limbo
Yeah,
kind
I
of
mean,
way.
it's great that we're making the playoffs, but I mean, I want to make the playoffs and make a run, you know?
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those. It's
And if that means that we got to lose for a couple years, I'd be fine with it. If that meant getting some good picks and building.
why do it if you're not going to be the best? If you don't think you have a shot to be the very best, and I don't think we have a shot to be the very best right now.
No.
It's my
And
honest opinion.
I agree with that. It's just the reality is that we have so many guys on our roster. We have a really good roster in my opinion on the defensive side of the ball, and we're wasting away a lot of the talent. I mean, Whitney Merciless hasn't really. He's been a pretty solid guy. We haven't done too much with him. JJ's definitely been wasted somewhat for his career.
And it's well, and it's one of what we talked about last episode, and what you kind of talked about at the beginning of this before we went air is that who are we gonna draft? Who are we gonna draft? And I think a lot of that has to go into the offensive line to really make us a threat, to give Brock more time to do whatever, or get whatever quarterback we have in there to get more time to do whatever. We really got to build up that line, I think, is what we spend our
Yeah,
picks
and I
on.
remember the Cowboys had been pretty bad, or not bad, or just pretty average. They were 8-8 for a while, and everyone kept on harassing them and making fun. Man, y'all keep on choosing offensive linemen first overall, or not, or for their first round pick rather. And I mean, just look at how well it's stacked up in their
How it's worked
favor.
out
Yeah,
now,
I mean,
yeah. He's got holes. Lamar needs holes
Lamar needs
sometimes, and we
holes,
really do need to
and he
give
would
him
stay a
that.
lot more healthy and wouldn't take as many hits and be with his ankle, and it'd buy Brock more time. It's just it's something that we would need overall. I think it's definitely something that I would like to see improved on this offseason as the O line for sure.
Hmm. All right, now going into news from besides our team, our competitors have upped the ante. They have upped the ante for next year. It has been reported that Doug Marrone has taken the head coaching job, and Tom Coughlin has taken the executive vice president role in the Jags organization. Now, Adam, my question to you is: do the Jags now have fangs that they take positions?
They definitely have spit out the pacifier that they had last season. And I mean that in a complimentary way, to be honest. I honestly, going into this season, me and you both thought that they were going to be a lot more of a threat. Me and you both thought that
Everybody
they were
did.
going to honestly be a bigger threat. Or not trying to speak for you, but I believe that me and you had both thought they were going to be a bigger threat than the Titans, which proved wrong.
Yeah, nobody predicted the Titans. Everybody predicted the Jags were going to do something this year, and I kind of believe they do that every year. But now, and looking back into 2000, the last season, 2016, the last couple games of the Jags season, their defense was playing hard. They really did kind of keep it very competitive in those last couple games. Their Blake Bortles had a better games than he did. I don't think that's entirely because of the head coaching change, but he had to have a better start to kind of gear it up, and their defense really was playing hard those last couple games.
I agree, and I think that Jalen Ramsey is a guy that you've got to take serious. I think he's definitely a guy that's going to be one of the best secondary men that there is. He's going to be a great corner. He was on it. I hate to admit it, but he really seemed to have DeAndre Hopkins' number a lot of the game.
Mm-hmm. They really was shadowing him, and that's been a lot of Hopkins' season. This is really being shadowed by some really good corners that just have kind of shut him down, thanks to a quarterback play and some of his not effort level, but some of the I'll say effort, some of his effort
For sure,
levels.
yeah, I agree. And they had a lot of additions in the offseason. They had Malik Jackson. I mean, they they definitely were. They spent the money they had. They were able to open up the wallet a little bit. It's just I think that their issue was a little bit of Gus Bradley. Kind of, he wasn't really an amazing coach. I think he's a guy that maybe belongs to just being an offensive coordinator and just kind of
He's definitely a players' coaches. From what I understand, the players really love Gus
yeah.
Bradley.
And he's a nice guy from what I was reading. It's just he wasn't getting it done.
It it just doesn't transfer to success sometimes. And they gave him some time. He didn't do it. Now you have Doug Marone stepping in, and you have Tom
Doug Marone's a
Coughlin.
good
And
coach.
Doug Marone's a good coach, and I'm really afraid of what Tom Coughlin will do. I know he's the vice president, so I'm sure he'll be definitely seeping into the organization, giving them, advice on what they should do, and really speaking into Doug Marone's ear about stuff.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more because if you look, uh, Doug Marone had a stellar brief stint with the Buffalo Bills. He brought them into relevancy. He nearly brought them into the postseason. He brought them their first winning season in 14 years before he had taken over as the Bills head coach. I'm definitely a lot more scared of the Jags going into this season.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say this right now, and you can throw this into the vault. Go ahead, do it. Listen to this. Heed these words.
I'm
If
throwing this
not,
into the vault.
if next year I sound like an idiot because I make this prediction, too bad. I'm gonna say it right now, like I do every time. The AFC South is gonna be interesting again, or interesting at all.
I hate to correct you, but it was pretty interesting this year because of how bad it was.
All right, let's be honest. I mean, interesting, like as in
As in,
watchable.
like,
All right,
competitive?
as in competitive. Yeah, pretty much is what I'm saying. I think it'll actually be better next year, hopefully.
Yeah.
Right? It's a football fan. I like watching games. All right, I like it. I like a little competitive.
Yeah, I definitely do too. I like a little bit more competition, but that means that the Texans are just going to have to step up their game a little bit more for the next year.
And hopefully that'll give us more training going into hopefully the playoffs against better teams that are going to be in
Yeah,
there.
go a little bit deeper as well into the postseason.
All right. Now we're going to roll this into next week's game, Saturday against the Patriots at Foxborough. Man, oh man, people are predicting this is going to be a bloodbath.
I'm seeing that we're already 16-point underdogs.
It's bad. Well, and you look at the game before, Johnny Brisket over there can tear this defense apart. Have a 0 to whatever the score was.
27.
Quite high and quite embarrassing. What can Tom Brady do, against us? And it's scary. I'm scared.
You have
I don't want to
nightmares?
look like an idiot.
I'm scared.
I'm scared.
I think that this is going to be a little bit more competitive than people give it credit for. I think it's going to be.
I would hope.
I can nearly guarantee. I'm just saying nearly because I've been a fan of the Texans and Houston sports for a while, so nothing ceases to amaze me when it happens. I can pretty much guarantee you, though, that we will find a way onto the scoreboard. Whether it's field goals or something, we will find our way onto the scoreboard this time.
It's going to be competitive in the first quarter.
That's definitely going to set the tone.
Our defense is going to get tired. Our defense is going to get tired, and they're going to be on the field for so long, and they're just going to start giving up plays because our offense can't stay on the field.
Please, just tell us exactly everything horrible that's going to happen.
Okay, I'll tell you exactly everything horrible is going to happen. Brock is going to go down with, I'm going to throw 3 picks out there. Lamar's not going to have a fumble, but 3 picks for Brock. I'm going to say that our line goes down. Brock is going to get sacked 2 times.
2 times?
And we're going to get a combined total. Actually, I'll save that for the prediction, for the points prediction. But I think it's going to be. It's not going to be great. It's not going to be great.
No? I think maybe I'm a little bit of a homer. Actually, I know I'm being a bit of a homer.
Thank you. Thanks for throwing me under the bus there.
How so?
Saying that I'm not a homer. I appreciate it. I understand.
Let's just be honest, Anthony. Let's just be real. We know you have no hope whatsoever. The fans haven't even been tuning in that long, and they already know that you don't have hope. I'll tell you first off, guys, that he has no hope.
No, I was not on the Brock train. Look where that got me. Mr. Choo Choo over here leading the train for Brock. You were on the train, and you know what? He led you all the way to Brock Bottom.
I'm sure you had to read a lot of article titles to find that one.
No, I thought that out on my own.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I think it's going to be a little bit more competitive this week as opposed to the first time we played them this year. I definitely see Brock turning it over. I don't see him doing it 3 times. I see a good
I see three, but I see at least one or two of them coming at the end when he's trying to force something.
You see, and I don't see as many turnovers as you do. Well, I mean, I see one interception and I see like a fumble. I could see a fumble happening.
I was thinking about saying a fumble, but I didn't want to be that negative.
No, well, you kind of have to be to an extent because we had some butterfingers last time we were in Foxborough. Charles James had
Yeah, last time in
fumbled.
Foxborough, every time,
Tyler
everywhere we have
Irvin.
Butterfingers.
Yeah, I mean, this is really the game that Clowney had really came out last game for us against the Jags. This is the game that he's really gonna have to kind of kick it up a notch for us.
I'll say this: at the beginning of last game, when we played them at the beginning of the season, at the very beginning, he was coming out. He was having a good game against the Patriots there to begin with.
Yeah, he was. I agree.
And then he got tired like everybody else on the
What's
defense.
let's be a little bit more positive. What's the keys to a win?
Okay. I'll tell you what the keys are right now. The keys are get in Brady's face. Make him uncomfortable. Break down that pocket. Make him scramble and get a ball in that face. I'll say key two is run the ball effectively. Keep that offense on that field for as long as possible. Use the time to your advantage. Do not let Brady on that field for a long amount of time because he will make you pay if you do. It's the same thing the Broncos had a game plan with Brock at the helm. Coincidentally, during that last game, get up in Brady's face, make him pay, keep your offense on the field. Do not let him on there. Tire out that defense. Do exactly what the Patriots do to us, but in reverse.
And I think another key that you could possibly throw in there may seem so minute, but the coin toss. Every time we do the coin toss, the Patriots usually win, and they always defer, and then we strike out on the first drive. They score a touchdown or a field goal or whatever. They get on the board nonetheless, and then they go again and strike again right before the half. And that puts us in a deeper hole because then they get the ball at the second half.
And now let's move on to box scores. Adam, what do you think the score is going to be?
I have a much more competitive game than when we previously played them earlier in the season. I have a high scoring game. I have the Patriots 36 and the Texans 21. High scoring for them, really. 21 isn't insanely high. I'm not gonna be a homer. I'm speaking with my mind. I think the Patriots are gonna win this game. I just obviously scores are always a toss up. They're gonna score a little more than 27, I think, with Tom Brady being under center. 36 might be shooting a little bit too high because our defense is really good. I think the end result will still be the same though.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and say it's going to be 30-17.
Wow,
That's it.
that was a lot closer than I thought it was gonna be from you.
Yeah. 2 touchdowns and a field goal. 2 touchdowns and a field goal.
Yeah, I could see it. You gave us 17 points last week too.
You know, I'm on this kick. I'm going to be right eventually.
If you just say we score 17 points every week.
I'm going to be right eventually. Now, what I want to bring up is the last time we played the Patriots. It's not been close 2 times. One time we did kind of get close all the way back in 2013. And I think that 2013 game, it was 34-31, I want to say it was. I'm not sure. We have definitely not been close the last couple times.
I honestly thought it was worse than that. I think it was like 34-17.
Here we go. 2016, week 3, 0-27. We all know that. That was very painful. Week 13 of 2013, 34-31. We need to capture that magic in a bottle. And
But
get
what was
that
the
close.
playoff one?
It doesn't show playoffs.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I must have been thinking the playoff one because I know we scored a little. It was a closer game, like you said, for sure.
All right. So now I'm going to throw over to Adam for some Rockets talk. Adam?
All right. I just wanted to get into it and bring up some of the upcoming news that had just come up with the Rockets a couple days ago. The new power rankings were just released from the NBA and ESPN that shows the Rockets climbed up to number 2 on the power rankings. Awesome. I'll take it. Love to see us capture that 1 seed, but hey, I'm not complaining. I'll take 2 seed out of 30 teams any day. Another thing I'd like to get into is the Rockets are 10 wins away from matching last year's record before the All-Star break. We're not even at the season's midpoint, and we already are 10 wins away from matching last year's abysmal season. And lastly, I wanted to mention you've got to vote James Harden into the All-Star game. He's got to be a starter. He was snubbed in the All-NBA team last year. He's dropping freakish numbers. He's dropping numbers that would be talked about a lot more if it wasn't for Russell Westbrook always dropping these triple doubles. But that's all I'm going to say on that. Next, I wanted to move into the Astros. It was reported that the Rays rejected a large offer from the Astros. The Astros were in talks about possibly getting Chris Archer to help deepen our pitching rotation to maybe get us a little bit deeper into the postseason next year. It was rumored that we had offered the number 2 prospect Kyle Tucker, Francis Martes, who's our top pitching prospect, David Paulino, who's our second highest pitching prospect, and 2 other unnamed prospects. That's a mega deal that was just offered to them, and they just swiftly said no. That's a shock. That was more than was offered for Chris Sale. So I'm in awe over that, to be honest with you. I didn't think that they would say no to that. I'm really shocked in itself that we'd even offer that much though. So I'm kind of happy they didn't say yes, because that's a lot of stock to ship for one guy. And lastly, on this Rockets Astros talk, I wanted to talk that hometown favorite Colby Rasmus has signed a 1-year deal with the Rays for $5 million.
No, not Colby Jack.
Colby Jack is no longer going to be sending Colby Jacks to the upper deck at Minute Maid Park. I thought he was a real fun, charismatic guy to watch. He had that spark. He had that fun charisma to watch. I'm definitely going to miss watching him as a fan. Statistically, I can definitely understand why we're letting him loose. He definitely kind of was on the decline, kind of eaten up by injuries a little bit at the tail end of last year, but it was a business move that I definitely could understand. We could easily spend the $5 million elsewhere, so I wish him the best as a fan.
All right, now I want to quickly remind you guys that we are on social media, as they say. You can find
As
us
they
at,
say,
you can find us at _HurryUp on Twitter. Is that right, Adam?
yes, sir, on Twitter.
And you can also like our Facebook page at The Hurry Up. Give us some feedback on what we might do, some suggestions, so we can kind of strengthen the show.
Yeah, I mean, just hit us up, follow, retweet, get the word out, hashtag it up. We're trying to expand. We're trying to get this a little bit bigger. This is really for fans, from fans, so please help us get our word out and get our message out and hopefully get some more listeners in and make this a little bit more creative and more fun.
Alrighty. Well, any last words, Adam?
No, guys, thanks for listening.
Thank you.